Days of torrential rain in central China's Hunan province raised the water of the Shangjiang River, a major tributary of the Yangtze River, to record levels Sunday morning. The water level in the section of the river in Changsha, the capital of Hunan province, reached 39.21 meters at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday. Already at 3.2 meters above the warning level, the water is expected to continue to rise as heavy rain is forecast for upstream regions over the next few days. According to the Provincial Meteorological Service, so far over 310,000 people were forced to evacuate. Nearly 300,000 hectares of crops were damaged and more than 6,000 houses were destroyed.
户搞生意经呢，你两个老生的了。
朋友，现在是2017年7月1号的下午2点钟。我现在所站的位置是位于浏阳复兴路旁边的某小区。目前所在的位置是小区的顶楼32层。正前方是浏阳河，现在看的是一片汪洋啊。浏阳河6桥，下面这个是浏阳水家社区。仔细看啊，像处于低洼地势的一些房子的1层，基本上是都被淹了。然后，远处那个有几个房子的。
Continuous and heavy rain has poured down on central China's Hunan province since June the 22nd. Conditions have got so severe that the Provincial Flood Control Centre is now trying to get those affected to higher and safer ground. Residents are being evacuated through windows, down ladders and onto boats. And those tasked with the rescue efforts are almost working around the clock. For those trapped inside, hot meals and other key supplies are being delivered.
As soon as we arrived at the scene, we have been focused on relocating residents. At the same time, we're safeguarding valuables and bringing residents their daily supplies.
Authorities are also using heavy sandbags to try to secure the local dikes, which have been overcome by the rain. For those who have been temporarily relocated, they're keen to get home, assess the damage, and get on with rebuilding their communities. Michael Butterworth, CGTN.
Floods in southern China have killed at least 15 people over the past few days. Here in the autonomous region of Guangxi, 23,000 people have been evacuated to safer areas after torrential rains. A 10-hour drive to the north, rescuers use ropes and canoes to save trapped people, including this heavily pregnant woman. In this province alone, 8 people have died and more than 300,000 have been evacuated. More rain is forecast in the coming days.
Welcome back. Heavy rains have triggered flood-like situation in northeastern as well as western parts of India. In Imphal, flash floods have caused heavy damage and several rivers have touched danger level mark, bringing normal life to a standstill. In Assam, more than 1.5 lakh people are reeling under the impact of floods in 8 districts where the flood waters have overrun 210 villages. At least 18 relief camps and 248 relief distribution points across the affected locations where more than 5,000 people have been given shelter. In Arunachal Pradesh, incessant pre-monsoon rain over the past few days has triggered landslides. In fact, 3 construction workers were killed in a landslide at Palin town of Kradadi district. In Gujarat, heavy rain pounded many parts of Jamnagar, causing floods in many villages. And in Rajasthan's Jodhpur, several vehicles parked on the streets and valuables were washed away as heavy flow of water lashed the streets due to rains.
Assam, new areas have been inundated as several rivers are maintaining a rising trend. Breach in river embankments has submerged new areas of Upper Assam. Official sources said that over 260,000 people have been affected in 8 districts. Over 5,000 displaced people have taken shelter at relief camps and district administration has distributed relief materials. State Disaster Response Force has been deployed at Karimganj and Biswanath district for rescue and relief work. Damage caused to roads, culverts and bridges has affected communication in many areas.
Heavy rain has triggered floods in various parts of the country. Incessant rainfall for the last 2 days in Imphal wreaked havoc and has led to considerable rise in water levels in various rivers of the state. The residents have also been left in the lurch. They are now being forced to wade through knee-deep water and to arrive at a safer place. In Assam, in Dibrugarh, floods affected more than 2.68 lakh people across various districts of Jorhat, Lakhimpur. Roads, in fact, have been inundated. Communication has also been disrupted because of the heavy rainfall, and some bridges too have been left damaged in the wake of the ongoing flood situation. Meanwhile, in Rajasthan's Jodhpur, vehicles have been washed away. Heavy rain continues to spell mayhem across the region. The Met Department has sounded 72 hours rain alert in Uttarakhand as well.
горят 22 тысячи гектаров леса, в основном в труднодоступных местах. Это гористая и каменистая местность, куда не добраться ни человеку, ни технике. С высоты птичьего полета картина на самом деле удручающая. Сотни деревьев, тысячи гектаров леса полыхают огнем. Кабанский район, над которым летим, при этом не самый опасный очаг. Но эти кадры шокируют. Горит не просто лес, а особо охраняемая природная территория, Байкальский заповедник. Десятки видов редких растений и животных. Вот они, очаги, про которые все говорят, которые в Бурятии не могут потушить на протяжении 2 недель. Что-то ликвидируют, что-то локализуют, но возникают все новые и новые термоточки. Летим на высоте ниже 100 метров, но отчетливо ощущается запах гари. Даже здесь, в вертолете, это горят бурятские леса. А это уже Прибайкальский район, самый многострадальный. Здесь горят больше 3000 гектаров леса. Практически ни к одному из очагов не подобраться. 3 раза в день сюда десантируют пожарных лесоохраны. Помимо оборудования, у них ящики с провизией. Домой вернутся не скоро, когда потушат основные пожары, если затем не перебросят на другой очаг. Ситуация в Бурятии меняется каждый час. Только по сводкам проходит информация об уменьшении количества пожаров, как возникают новые очаги. Сейчас их 34. Эта цифра в очередной раз увеличилась. Аномальная жара. В выходные столбики термометров поднялись до 40 градусов. И сухие грозы делают свое дело.
Очень тяжелая ситуация, потому что буквально за полдня пожар прошел порядка 10 километров. Перебросил даже те ключи, которые мы даже не ожидали, что они перейдут.
Из Иркутской области на помощь в Бурятию прилетел самолет-амфибия МЧС России Б-200. За один вылет он способен выбросить до 100 тонн воды на самые горячие точки республики. Правда, каждый такой полет сопряжен с огромным риском. Сбрасывают воду на высоте 50 метров. После каждого раза пилоты вынуждены что из силы тянуть штурвал на себя. Впереди горы.
Rainy season has arrived with a bang. Seoul and Korea's central region were lashed by torrential rainfall and rocked by thunder and lightning overnight, with flooding reported in a number of areas as well as on some of the country's major expressways as well. There has been flooding in the low-lying areas of the capital region after more than 150 millimetres of rain fell over the weekend. With the monsoon system moving eastwards, heavy rain warnings remain in effect in parts of Gyeongsang-buk-do, Chungcheong-do and Gangwon-do provinces. A heat wave warning has been issued for the northern and eastern parts of Jeju Island. There's going to be a typhoon expected to skirt the island and southern regions overnight. If you are watching us in Korea, you will need an umbrella handy throughout the week, as we are going to see heavy rain for the next several days. We're going to have more details on this extreme weather with our Lee Ji-hyun at the tail end of our newscast.
Već diganje asfalta na Ceutu. Jaš kaput, gledaj. Male.
Dođi go izdore do Golca. Iha!
Fires are burning in our state, and it continues just to cause a lot of problems. If you know anybody who lives in or had plans to head to Summer Haven, just outside Tucson, that mountaintop community is being evacuated beginning at 6 o'clock this morning because of the Burro Fire. Back in 2003, you might remember Summer Haven had to deal with a major fire. The Aspen Fire burned right through that community, burning homes and stores. They've since rebuilt, of course, but that scar remains in the psyche as well. The Burro Fire has scorched more than 14,000 acres. Evacuations on Mount Lemmon already underway, with Pima County sheriffs helping out there. So far, no containment right now.
Yeah, Mount Lemmon's such a popular place for folks this time of year, too.
The head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Scott Pruitt, has launched a formal process to review and challenge mainstream climate science. The critique will reportedly be modeled on how the U.S. military identifies battlefield vulnerabilities. Emily Holden from E&E News' Climate Wire broke the story on Friday, joins me now from Washington to discuss it. So explain, how's this process going to work?
So what we know so far is essentially that Administrator Pruitt wants to recruit scientists to work on this red team, blue team, to sort of look at any potential vulnerabilities, any sort of uncertainty in climate change reports. So the red team would do that. The blue team would be the team producing and defending the reports. This
Kind of flies in the face of peer-reviewed scientific journals and how they actually put science forward.
It does, and that's absolutely what you've heard from the scientific community in response to this. They're saying, look, this is exactly how science is made. So before we publish anything on climate change or any other matter, we've had it reviewed by other scientists who have looked to see that we've done everything correctly and that we've come to the correct conclusions.
And what about the fact that the overwhelming majority of climate scientists say that this is really not up for dispute? So if you wanted to do this red team, blue team, would it be red team 3 and blue team 97?
Right, so we don't know a lot about what the specifics would look like. It's a pretty small group of people who are dissenters who do not agree with the vast majority of climate scientists who say that climate change is happening, that humans are a cause, a main cause, and that action needs to be taken as soon as possible to try to stall climate change.
And how did you find out this information on Friday?
I actually was at an event where the president was speaking at the Energy Department headquarters and had a chat with Bob Murray, who's the CEO of Murray Energy, one of the biggest coal companies in the U.S., and he mentioned to me that he had had a meeting with Scott Pruitt that same morning at a coal lobby board meeting, and that he had spoken to him about this issue and what he planned to do, and also whether he plans to challenge a legal finding that is the basis for U.S. greenhouse gas regulations.
Put this in perspective on the other steps that Scott Pruitt has taken when it comes to climate science.
Mm-hmm. So for the budget proposal, he has cut pretty much anything related to climate science that his agency does right now. It's unclear whether Congress is going to approve the numbers that he and the president are looking at. But essentially, he's nixed anything that would work on climate science within the EPA. He's taken everything down from the website that he can. So that part is not a surprise. He's already expressed that he does not believe that carbon dioxide is a main cause of climate change.
Emily Holden from E&E News. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
From afar, they look like people enjoying a day at the beach. But on closer inspection, they're in fact king penguins. Flightless birds with a clumsy walk that have long fascinated adults and children of another two-footed species. It's the end of the breeding season as we take a ferry through the Straits of Magellan to Magdalena Island to see another breed, the Magellanic penguin, named after the explorer Ferdinand Magellan. Today, the island is a penguin colony sanctuary with access to tourists.
About 56,000 pairs of penguins came last year to mate and breed. We are seeing far fewer than in the past.
Accompanied by Fernandez and penguin expert Claudia Godoy, we learned that penguin colonies in South America are under threat. Climate change is one reason.
In Punta Tombo, the largest colony in Argentina, it is well documented that changing rain patterns force penguins to abandon flooded nests. Or worse yet, the chicks die of cold because they are still too young to regulate their temperature.
The Punta Tombo colony has diminished by more than half in the past 25 years, while another study indicates that 60% of Antarctica will be unfit to nest Adelie and emperor penguins by the end of the century. Warmer ocean temperatures have diminished the quantity and quality of fish for the penguins, who must swim further and further away to feed their young. But overfishing and ocean contamination, especially plastic, are also killing penguins. This sign outside Punta Arenas advertises a major tourist attraction that no longer exists.
Beyond this gate is the entrance to what for decades has been Chile's best-known penguin colony. Magellanic penguins used to come here by the thousands to breed, but now I find that the gate is closed because the penguin colony has been largely abandoned.
Many suspect that constant explosives and contamination from this giant coal mine operating on the Otway Sound may help explain the penguins' disappearance.
Nobody has taken responsibility for studying the different factors that are determining the dramatic drop in the Magallanes region. A colony disappears and no one does anything.
Penguins have been around this part of the world for tens of thousands of years. The question is, can they survive even a few more decades of changes to their habitat? Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Isla Magdalena, Chile.
Scientists are predicting a 110-mile sheet of ice, a chunk the size of the state of Delaware, will break off Antarctica in the coming days or weeks. The cause is warming ocean waters, and the ice melt has implications for sea level rise well beyond the South Pole region. The National Geographic July issue cover story is called "Antarctica is Melting, and Giant Ice Cracks Are Just the Start." Joining me now from Birmingham, Alabama to discuss this is Robert Krunzig, the senior environmental editor for National Geographic. Thanks for joining us. First of all, a chunk of ice the size of Delaware seems almost impossible to, put our heads around, but that's actually a small piece when you think of the size of Antarctica.
Yes, it is, and it's even just a small piece, Hari, of the Larsen C ice shelf that it's breaking off of. Larsen C is a floating slab of ice that's the size of Vermont and New Hampshire combined. And what's happening there is that a rift that has been growing for years now, this year really accelerated it. As you said, it's about 15 miles wide, and it's been growing from south to north, basically going to slice a big chunk of ice off the ice shelf, and that chunk will be the size of Delaware.
You know, we have a picture of one of the cracks that are going through. Scientists have been looking and studying and trying to get at some of these cracks for a long time. How deep does it go down, and why are they so concerned?
The crack in Larsen C, where Larsen C meets the sea, it's about 600 feet thick. And most of that is underwater, so there's an ice cliff of about 60 feet that towers above the waves. So the crack goes about at least 600 feet. If this iceberg goes, the worry is that the whole ice shelf might collapse, as other ice shelves on the Antarctic Peninsula have already collapsed. And ice shelves there and elsewhere around Antarctica are really kind of the canaries in the coal mine, that they're a sign of what's happening all over, which is that Antarctica is melting faster than scientists had expected.
So this isn't just about the fact that the ice is already in the water and it's just melting in a glass of water, say. We're actually adding new ice cubes to that glass, which is what makes the sea level rise.
Well, yes, that's the perfect analogy. This ice, the Larsen C ice shelf is floating. It is like an ice cube in a glass of water. So even if all of it collapses, that itself does not add to sea level. But the thing about ice shelves is that they function like corks. They're bottling up a much larger amount of ice that's on the ground, on the land in this case, behind them. And when that's the glaciers that are carrying ice from the interior of Antarctica towards the sea. The ice shelves are really just sort of the floating ends of the glaciers. And so when that flow increases, more ice is falling into the sea and raising sea level.
In the article, it talks about how scientists measure what's happening kind of underwater. What's happening underneath these ice sheets? How is there warmer water, and what's the interaction of salt water do to this all?
Well, the big thing that's been happening in recent years is that warmer ocean water, and when I say warmer, I don't mean really warm. We're talking about 4 or 5 degrees above freezing. That water is penetrating further up towards the coast of Antarctica under the ice shelves, and it is undermining the ice shelves. It's melting them and thinning them from below and weakening them.
You know, you have a large map that you have in the National Geographic article that kind of puts this in perspective, and there's areas of kind of purple that are the areas that are kind of floating off, and then there's a couple of patches of red where it's really happening at an incredible rate. Tell us about how fast it's happening in, say, the Pine Glacier.
Basically, it's been an acceleration by several times. All over Antarctica, the loss of ice from the floating ice shelves has increased by a factor of 12 in the past 2 decades. So where in the mid-90s they were losing 6 billion tons of ice, now they're losing 74. What it is it's natural for these glaciers to flow to the sea, but what's happening is the speed has increased.
Robert Krenzig, the Senior Environment Editor for National Geographic. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Hari.